Now, unless you have literally been living under a rock, you probably will have heard that Ruben Amorim has been sacked and is no longer manager of Manchester United. Once again, we find ourselves sitting here thinking about who the next gaffer could possibly be. We know we've got Darren Fletcher in the short term, but beyond that, there's sort of no idea right now. Now, at some point, we need to have a conversation about names, different managers that could come into the club. But before we do that, we first need to focus on what Manchester United actually need to be successful. Now, just to sort of clarify for this video, this isn't necessarily an immediate response to Amorim. It's sort of a problem that we've had through different stages over the past 13 years. Now, for me, the first thing that we need to see from a new Manchester United manager, whether in the short term or in the long term, is tactical flexibility. We need to see a manager that is open to different ideas. And the reason for that is because football is constantly changing. Football is ever evolving. Just this year, we've seen the introduction of loads of long throws, loads of set pieces. We've seen eras where there's a lot of focus on short passing football, and then another time we'll see lots of long passing football. As a manager, you have to be able to evolve, to be adaptable. In the Premier League, it's basically a case of evolve or be extinct. So what Manchester United need is a manager who is willing to be flexible, both in terms of his shape, his starting formation. You know, a manager that in one game might use a 4-2-3-1, but perhaps in the next uses a 4-3-3 if it suits the game a little bit better. Or will occasionally defend with his team in a back five and occasionally defend with his team in a back four. You need someone who is willing to adapt and be flexible in shape, in formation, but also in idea, I think, as well. There are certain games which suit fast, quick transitioning football, and then there are other games where the team need to be controlled and able to get the ball down. Some matches are going to require a focus through the middle of the pitch, and others you're going to be able to exploit the opposition out wide. Manchester United need a manager who is willing to adapt, willing to evolve, willing to adjust to get the best out of the team that he's got, and also to give his team the best chance of winning in the upcoming match. I think that's something that United have struggled to find over the past 13 years, and it needs to change with the next manager. We've got to be more flexible. Now, something else that we need from our new manager or head coach is the ability to coach players and to develop them. Now, I'm not saying that Amorim didn't do that. For example, I think Aiden Heaven and Ahmad both improved immensely under Ruben Amorim. But generally speaking, too many players over the past couple of decades have come to Manchester United as exciting, young, promising players, and we've failed to turn them into the stars that they could be. Manchester United right now average the 7th youngest starting 11 in the Premier League. We have some seriously gifted young players. If I just bring in a few from the bench, Lomans is a really bright young goalkeeper who we need to help develop as a player and as a personality. We've got players like Mantato is a good young footballer. We've got Ahmad. We've got Chido Obi, we know is lurking around the squad. We've got Benjamin Sesko. I can just keep going. We've got Aiden Heaven. We've got, if I can find him, we've got Lenny Yoro. We've got Patrick Dorgu, who's a young player. We've got Kobe Mainu, who's a young player. United have so many young footballers that potentially can save United a lot of money in the market in the future, right? If we can turn some of these into world beaters, we're going to save ourselves hundreds of millions in the market. So what United need to do is find a manager or a coach and a coaching setup, coaching staff that can help these players improve, help these players get better at football. For example, we know Lenny Yoro recently has had a bit of an issue when he is dragged out wide into 1-versus-1 situations. He's struggled with the details in those moments. What we need is someone that can coach him, can help him, give him the pointers that he needs to improve as a player. That's something that we need. And then I think the other thing that we need is a personality that knows when to use them at the right time, when to throw them into the team to give them their opportunity, and when to take them out because they need that little bit of protection. Now, again, this isn't necessarily an attack on Ruben Amorim, just something that I feel we haven't got right over the past 15 years. There's been so many players with high potential that we've failed to build upon, players that we failed to lift up and really help sort of shine at the highest level. That for me has got to change. I think the United DNA is improving and coaching these players, especially if the Ineos model is going to be to sign younger players, to bring players through, sign players of potential. We have to help them fulfill that. Now, just to build on that point, that is really important in terms of recruitment as well. For example, we're being linked so heavily with Carlos Baleba over the next 12 months. We need to reassure a player like Baleba that if he comes to the club, not only is he going to get a chance to play for United, but we're actually going to help him with the details. Same with someone like Elliot Anderson, a great young footballer, but he needs to come here and know that we are going to give him the chance to perform, to excel. Yan Diomande as well. There's so many of them. We have to prove that we can help these guys. Now, building on that point of improving players and developing players, something that we need to do on the football pitch is make our players look more comfortable. How many times over the past few seasons have we sort of seen comments thrown at the squad that They look scared. They don't necessarily want the ball in certain situations. They don't take responsibility. Well, some of the time that's because they're not in positions where they feel that they can execute. They're not in positions that suit their habits, their instincts, and that makes it very difficult. For all humans in any walk of life, it's difficult to go against instinct. And this is where I am going to fire a little bit more criticism at Ruben Amorim on this particular occasion, because I think there are some players that we just didn't see that. We didn't see players played in their best roles. For example, in the starting back three formation, what we would often see is a middle centre-back in this position here. Let's call them De Ligt, and in the first phase they would go and play in midfield. There could not be anyone on this planet who thinks De Ligt's best position is receiving the ball with his back to goal in midfield. So we didn't help him. We didn't help him feel comfortable. We didn't help him play to his instincts, and that was a problem. I think Ahmad is another one. Ahmad improved immensely for me under Ruben Amorim, but there is no doubt that in terms of the tactical role, there were things that didn't work. In the first phase, in this position here, he was essentially a right back receiving possession, and then when we would defend, he would end up as a right wing back in a back five. That doesn't suit Ahmad. Ahmad is this amazing attacking player. We're also excited about what he can bring to this club. So we've got to get him further forward. We've got to get him further forward. That's something that the next manager has to recognise. Take these players, figure out what they're good at, assess them as personalities, and then get them into parts of the pitch, into roles that suit that. I think Bruno Fernandes is another great example. We've seen so much of Bruno defending the edge of his own box, and he'll try and do a job there. Of course he will. He's a very honest, hard-working player. But we all feel he's an attacker. So let's get Bruno Fernandes in attacking parts of the pitch where he can hurt people, where he can create chances, where he can score goals, where he can have the most influence. That's something that we need to do. And I think it ties in with the previous 2 points. Being flexible tactically to get these players into their best positions, and then developing the players by making them comfortable. Now, I understand that some people will sort of clap back a little bit by saying the players are demanding too much. We try and cater for them too much. But ultimately, I think it's the job of the manager to get the best out of the players that he's got. So that's something that we need to do. Now, the final question for the new manager coming into the club is one of style, and I think this is one that divides opinion. For some people at a club like Manchester United, style is important. Playing in the United way, the United DNA is incredibly important. Other people will go, we've been so bad for so long that we just need to find results, we just need points, we just need to climb the league table. I don't care how we do it. I think there's two sides to that coin, there's two arguments that you can make. I personally am of the opinion that Manchester United are a club that have more history than a club like Chelsea and Manchester City. I think the identity is important, and I do believe, yes, we need points, that's probably the end goal, but I do think the way that you play is important. I think Manchester United are a side, particularly at Old Trafford, that should be attacking, that should be aggressive, that should be taking the game to the opposition. Not necessarily with complete controlled possession. I'm not asking for 70% of the ball, but I am asking for a side that want the ball, a side that want to play out from the back and get on the ball and move through the pitch. A team that want to quickly attack the opposition with, at times, fast wingers in 1-versus-1 situations, isolating fullbacks and taking them on. We want to see that at Old Trafford. We want to see the midfield combining together and knitting and passing and dribbling their way through the opposition. I think Old Trafford demands that, and it certainly should, in my opinion. Quick football is a part of the Manchester United DNA, and that also involves how you line up defensively as well. I don't think United are a side that should sit back in a low block. Sure, there are games where you can do it. There are teams out there that are a lot better than us. Sometimes you have to go, you know what, this week we are much worse. We've got to sit off. We've got to protect ourselves. That's sensible. That's what it means to be adaptable. But I think largely United should be on the front foot. We should be taking the game to the opposition. Again, especially at Old Trafford. Teams should be scared of playing us. I think that's something important that the new manager needs to instill at the club. That's not going to take 3 weeks. It's going to take a long time. It's going to be a process. But that's what United need to be, on the front foot. We need a manager that wants to be aggressive, that wants to be assertive, that wants to go at the opposition, rather than worrying so much about what the opposition might do to us. So yeah, that for me is what we need from the new manager. The job from now is finding a manager out there who is available and ticks those boxes. And that's what we're going to be trying to do over the next couple of weeks. So if you want to see those videos, make sure to subscribe and get your notifications on. For now, for today, that's sort of what I want from a new manager. I want someone who is adaptable and flexible, willing to adapt to the players that he's got to get them into their best positions. I think that's something that we need. We also need to coach our players. I think we've got some seriously exciting, bright prospects at this club, which is why it's not the end of the world. You know, this isn't a complete reset, a complete rebuild once again. We've got a fantastic young squad. We just need to help those players more to develop. Amorim did it with some of them, but perhaps didn't with others. We need a manager that can perhaps do it more consistently. Maybe that would help a manager to succeed. And then the final thing for me is the mindset. For me, Manchester United are an attacking football club, an exciting football club, or certainly we should be. One that tries to play on the front foot. And if we're not right now, it's what we need to become. And the only way you do that is by getting a manager with the mindset to play in that way, to be aggressive, to be on the front foot, to play quick football, to get lots of numbers in the box. That's what I want to see from the next permanent Manchester United manager. Like I said, the job now is trying to find that guy, and that is the plan over the next few weeks and months. So yes, subscribe, stay tuned for all of that. For today though, we're now finished. So thank you guys very much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.